I'm feeling probably the most vulnerable out of any, because this is my moment. Like, if I don't get this funding, this is the last bank, by the way. If I don't get this funding, it's like now I've actually failed. Like, proving yourself capable of. Maybe I wasn't capable of, and so I have actually failed in this endeavor. Failures aren't bad, by the way.
No,
that's another topic altogether. Sure. But I'm just saying in terms of my real desire to make this work. And so now I'm feeling the nerves. We finished the presentation, which I thought the presentation was stellar, but man, the guy was hard. And he got up and he said, "Okay, I'll get back to you." And he left. And he didn't show that he was super impressed about anything.
It was just there.
And Chris looked at me and said, "You did a good job. You shouldn't feel, upset about anything at all." But now when she's saying that, what's she leading to? She's saying normally what would happen is that the risk manager would take me into another room and we would discuss the amount that we would be able to offer you, because we probably wouldn't give you the entire amount that you're asking for. Then we'd come back and we would tell you that amount, shake your hand, but he's left. It was a Friday that I had the meeting. So she said that, let me call him after our meeting, but most likely we'll get back to you on Monday. I was applying for a job in my second year as an intern.
Okay.
To what they call FMCG, so the likes of selling Sunlight or Colgate or, so those sorts of companies. And
what's
I was told
FMCG?
Fast-moving consumer goods. So, the products in your
like the
shampoos, right? So
basic needs kind of thing.
I knew I wanted to do marketing.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do. And when I wanted to apply, I was told, look, these are the companies that are coming on campus, and they're going to be here next week. Go and apply. So, sometimes you just say the right thing at the right time, and you get the information, timing worked out, and I went and I made my application. And I was told, you might want to strategically apply in your third year, because when you apply for this sort of a job, generally the company won't want to hire you so early on. They want to hire people that are closer to graduation so that they can then keep them on, right?
Right.
So I made the application, and I ended up going through the series of interviews, and I ended up getting the internship. And I interned with the company for the summer. I got the job offer for the next summer. So everything, to your point, was actually quite smooth. I don't walk in with a story like that is super emotional about someone coming to the country with a $20 bill in their pocket and today being a multi-billionaire. That's not my story.
This is Dad's story. Let's talk. Yeah, this is Dad's story. Yeah. It's our parents, right? That's what they did.
It's our parents that did that, right? For me,
they did the hard stuff.
For me, it was almost
That's
like,
so interesting.
I lived in a bubble. Everything kind of tended to line up. And so where I think the challenge for me was after getting a full-time job offer and getting everything that anybody would dream of. You've completed your degree. You're now with a company that is giving you keys to a company car.
But you said yourself, hold on. You said you were applying as a second year, not as a third year.
Right.
That doesn't line up so easy. So were they aware when they were coming to interview you that you were not a third year? Like there was this
100%,
acknowledgement that you're not our ideal candidate.
They did not say that. So
right.
So the company would never say don't apply, but the
staff, somewhere along,
the staff of the university and just different mentors you have would say, look, from stats in the past, second year applicants generally will not get hired for an internship role at this particular company.
So that's got to play on you.
It does, but what happens is that when I'm challenged, I kind of almost want to prove myself capable of, right? And so when I'm challenged now, it's almost like, what's there to lose? And so I go for the interview, and when I'm in the interview, I remember I would look them straight in the eye with such confidence, and a lot of what I realized was that, and I guess this kind of came naturally. I read a lot, and so. When I answer questions, they're not just yes and no. Mm-hmm. When I'm answering questions, I'm generally giving anecdotes or I'm getting into some stories. And in that particular case, the interviewers actually really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. And it was different from when they were speaking to other students. So what happened was that when they were interviewing me, I was able to stand out from the other applicants just in my style.
Where do you think you got that from?
I think it came from a lot of reading.
Me?
I think it came from my teachers.
Coach.
Slow your roll.
Come on. Know your lane. Stay in your lane, MK. No. This is amazing. It's amazing.
I'm just such a great mentor that.
But I think that for me it came from a lot of reading. But I also tend to, I like to observe a lot of the behind the scenes. Just pre our interview right now, what were we talking about without even knowing we were going to talk? We were talking about the setup.
Yes,
we were talking about the warm up. We were talking about the tightness of the frame on the camera and the mics and how it changes psychology of the people being interviewed. So all of this is what I observe. I was invited to do a presentation at a concert in Vegas, Mariah Carey concert. And when I'm there, I'm not there to watch her sing. I'm not interested in her singing, but I'm loving watching the production.
Right.
And seeing what are the producers doing? Yeah. Where is she entering from? How late is she when she enters? The fashionably late appearance.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy. And so it kind of, my interview with the company ended up being more of a discussion and stories and anecdotes. And that's essentially what enabled me to get in. And so you're, to the point of living in a bubble or not having that sob story, everything was just lining up. I went to the school I wanted to go to. I got the job I wanted to get before mostly anybody else. I got a reoffer for the job. And then after...
What's a reoffer?
Reoffer means that after you finish your second year, you still have to do it. Are they going to invite me back for my...
Because it was interning. It was only an intern.
Oh, got you. Yes, that's right.
So you did two internships.
So I did 2 internships. And then after the second internship, are they now going to give me the job offer for
that was
full-time?
that was a question in your mind still after 2 internships?
I don't like to take things for granted. So I kind of, I never even wore...
That's the humility stuff.
I never wore the BBA sweater until I graduated because I didn't want to, say, hey, I got my BBA.
Right,
still my first year,
You're like, I've earned it. Yeah. I never did buy one, actually.
Yeah. Right?
So I never did buy a
I just bought a university one.
Yeah.
And I bought it now.
Recently.
Exactly. When
now
my son graduated.
Tuesday,
when my son graduated. Go on. Yeah.
Time flies. I remember when his son was that old.
Amazing, right? How time flies. So, so you didn't take it for granted. I think that's an important thing to realize about people who appear to have everything falling in place for them. Like you weren't assuming it's going to fall into place. I think that's an important thing to just pause on.
Yeah.
Like it was falling into place for you, but you never took it for granted.
It's so true. You know what? It's so true. And as you're saying that, I'm trying to think about right now. So if I see that sort of a behavior in my current day, I still see it because I might get, how you mentioned about all the videos that I'm posting and everything. But what people aren't seeing is kind of what I already, the new stuff that's almost about to happen.
Yeah.
That I would generally be so excited to share with the world, but I'm holding myself back because I'm like, it's not confirmed.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to jinx it, or I don't want to pre-celebrate it.
Or what happened to this if it didn't fly, right?
Yeah.
And have to be.
So do you feel like at that early age, like you're in your early 20s at that point in time? Right?
Yeah, correct.
Did you feel when you were there at that moment, if you take yourself back there, you're cognizant that you're succeeding, you're on your way, but were you consciously saying to yourself, you must have had to be saying this to yourself, right? Like, will I, it's not confirmed, I don't have the job yet, so keep working.
Yeah. I think that, so yes, I definitely didn't, even when I had the job offer, I was so focused and concerned about ensuring that I got the top grades in my final semester or my final year, just to ensure that, this letter is actually valid 8 months later when graduation time comes, and not that I've missed a course or I've underperformed in a course and so it's no longer valid. I never took it for granted. I never took it for granted. It was something that I was always aware of. But at the same time, it's kind of like there comes a point where I think that quality also is what made me start questioning. I actually started questioning.
Yes.
I started questioning
because something is done now, and you're still on some way doubting it.
And everybody else, I'm
saying
everybody, like 99% of my social circle and everybody that I know, was when I started questioning myself, they would almost look at me in disgust that you have everything that anybody would dream of. You know, you've got a great, well-paid job. You've got,
so this happened to you after you get the job?
After I get the job. So up until the point I'm getting my job, it's smooth sailing.
Yeah, so you get the job.
Now I've achieved, right? And I've gotten the job. And now what's the goal? Now the goal in the job is generally working up the ladder, right? And so I'm doing that, and I'm in the job.
Give me a timeline as this is happening, as it's building up to this doubt moment.
I'd say that. So after I graduate, in April. I take the summer off. I even went and applied to Pizza Hut because I wanted to say that I worked at a pizza. Like I wanted to be able to say at some point in the future. I always kind of think the future that I actually worked at a McDonald's, or I actually worked at a Pizza Hut, or I actually worked, stocking the floor at that time Zellers. And so I spent those 4 months just doing some odd jobs that I felt in my life I'm probably not going to ever do again now that I have a corporate job.
Yeah.
Oh
my! I love that you did that.
And I
what?
Yeah.
Why?
I just love
I did, and in fact, I did it. At that point, I did it really because I wanted to do something that I'm never going to do again. I don't think. Hopefully, I don't think at that time. I would hope that I would never in the future have to say that I'm applying to work at a job where generally I'd be working with other students, or like a student sort of a job,
entry level.
Not to say that there's anything wrong with the job.
It's
there's people my age that are working there right now, but
100%.
with what I had accomplished and where I was getting my job offer
you were in a different market.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect myself to be applying for that sort of a job, much later on.
What did you learn from that?
Well, so I did apply. I didn't get the Pizza Hut job.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you got this job, but you did not qualify.
I didn't get the Pizza Hut job. And I had applied for preparing the dough at midnight, so it's ready for the morning.
Yeah.
And, I didn't get the job. I did get the job at Zellers, and so I did the inventory count and stocking the floor. And I liked it because it's almost like you're able to be in a space where you're just very enjoying. There's like no politics.
You're in it.
It's you're just having fun with new buddies that you make that are doing the same thing, and you're all just kind of there. And the other thing was I was doing it again more for the experience. There's a very big difference when you're doing it because you need to.
Yes.
And I could see people that were there that were working in that job role. Because they needed to, and you respect them for it.
And sometimes it's like their second job too.
It's their second job, and the hours that they're putting in, and it's just remarkable what people are doing.
So just that eye-opening,
that's
unbelievable.
That's huge. I mean, it gave me perspective.
Well, it teaches you value, right? The value of
because from the beginning, we've talked about the fact that everything was lining up for me, and so now I'm going into a space where I'm working shoulder to shoulder with and making good friends with. And it was almost at that point that I realized my thinking was probably not right. I shouldn't be doing this because I see the job as not being a good, a job that I would want in the future. That's not true because it's just some people aren't dealt the same cards.
I just find like in service industries, like because I did house cleaning, I worked in like housekeeping in hotels, like a taco place, like all of these different places.
I never saw that on your resume.
I know. Well, my resume is already 6 pages long, so you have to kind of have somewhere. But like I always found in those environments, like there's a humility there, or even construction. I work in construction too a fair bit and farming and things, and like there's just a different humility there, and you see a different side of life, a different perspective that you may not have grown up with.
Well, if I'm reading you right, it sounded like you're getting to this really appreciation.
Yeah,
I'm
like
realizing
grateful,
it. You have to remember what was my
right?
objective. I mean, there's pros and cons to the objective. The objective was I want to work in a job that I don't think I'm going to ever have in the future again. Okay. Because I wouldn't want that sort of a job in the future again. But what the realization is when I'm working in that job, actually, it's almost a humility where you're working next to people that, first of all, there was two types of people I worked next to. There was the person that was in need of that job. They didn't 100%. Have a choice.
No.
Okay. And you respect them for that. I mean, they're working hard, endless hours. appreciating that job that they have because they didn't have any other opportunity. But guess what? The second type of person I was working with was actually the retired lawyer, the retired engineer, or the person that's actually working hard to keep their mind going at that age. You know, so actually that was...
So it's not below anything.
It's not below anything.
It's not. Right. It's just we're humans. We all have a role. And,
So if you see me doing cash at Home Depot in the future, you know, that's my stage of life, you know?
Like working in service, and because you enjoy being around people, like, and you go back to that, right? So,
exactly.
But no, it is hard when you see people, like, the part for me, and I see this with a lot of families I work with, is, you know, both parents are working 2 jobs. And there's this illusion that they're not doing enough to sustain themselves or their family. Meanwhile, they're working tirelessly to put things on the table that when we're in a different market niche, we take advantage of. And I think that's an important thing when you move through life, just as a human being or even as a business owner, but more importantly, just as a human being, is that just like equal isn't the same, and we're all equal. Yeah.
Did you, so now this starts dawning on you.
Yeah.
You know, did you find that changed you in some way as you started to go forward from there?
I mean, I always respected people for who they were, but the important thing here that really call it changed me perhaps is to be very, very conscious of never being judgmental. You know, you don't know what the true story is. You don't know what the value is. You don't know what the situation is. And so never be judgmental on anything. And I was always, I mean, my character was brought up not to be, but this was a real scenario where it was like,
put it to the test.
Be careful. Why did you apply for the job? What did you learn from the job? And I mean, it was a great learning, but you know, that was stage 1. I mean, then I end up working at this large company, and you know, it's a complete extreme from working the floors at Zellers to now being flown in jets to meetings in the States, and it's like, you know, what you would normally kind of see in movies or in today's day on social media with people on their jets. And so it's kind of like, it's so different. But the problem was that I was questioning inside me. I really did feel like something was missing. I felt like something was missing. And this is where I was...
Wait. What were you missing? Like the yacht from the jet? Like,
I didn't own the jet. That was the company jet.
Well, how does a guy flying around on a jet feel like there's something missing?
That's a fair question.
What are you
is
missing?
That why I wasn't feeling at the end of the day like accomplished, and I think I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was that was making me feel unhappy.
And that's fair. Yeah. Actually, that's a fair response. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
There's this feeling, and we don't know why.
I have everything.
That's
Everything's
okay.
Like you got all the boxes.
Very. Yeah. That's a really good answer. I love that you kind of can say,
it's real.
I didn't know why I was feeling it.
I didn't know.
So there's no way to rationally now get around this feeling either. You're a very rational guy, and you couldn't rationalize it.
I would go to bed, and you know, there's 7 days in a week, and I'd be looking forward to Fridays. And I looked forward to Fridays because the next day was Saturday. But guess what? On Saturday night, I wasn't happy again because the next day was Sunday, which is the day before Monday.
It's Monday. It's called Monday.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Apparently,
I just learned something today.
I didn't know that.
Monday is the feeling you get on a Sunday.
Oh,
when you know tomorrow is a Monday.
All right. So there's a term for it. Okay. So I wasn't the only one.
You're so youthful today. You're so youthful.
You can use that in a sentence.
Oh, man, it's Monday.
Try it's Monday.
So, there it is.
It's Monday.
2 out of 7, 1.5 out of 7 days I'm happy, and the other 5.5 days I'm not, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's not a good position to be in. You know, if you can't, you want to know why.
It's pretty obvious, quite frankly. Yeah. But it's amazing when you're in it.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't know why.
But it's like we make these deliberate and willing decisions in our lives, and we set up these structures and set up our life in a way that is it's like what we're told to do almost, but then you feel like you've built yourself a jail. You've incarcerated yourself.
Hey, did you think that for a second? Did it occur to you at some point in time that, hold on a second, how did I get here?
Yeah.
What ended up happening was I had this habit ever since I was much younger, as a child actually, to document what I was thinking.
You mean journalizing?
Yeah, to actually put into a book what I was thinking, what I was feeling, I mastered the ability, and this is actually golden. If people can do this, if they're able to take themselves out of themselves and do a third,
a distant perspective,
almost from third party kind of like perspective on themselves and watch themselves.
Yeah.
Watch the movements of themselves, and not only that, but understand why they're doing what they're doing. What came here? What came to the tongue? What did they say? Why did they act that way? And so I would, even when I came out of sales calls, so I was doing national marketing for top brands across Canada, and we would go to retailers, Loblaws, Walmart, Shoppers Drug Mart.
Just like to get your products in their stores kind of thing?
Yeah, but the top level planning. So the marketing, where are can we get end caps? Can we get floor stands? Can we run a flyer in conjunction with that? So have our product on the flyer. By the way, we don't want you to. Pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. So you cannot tell them that, look, we don't want you to sell our toothpaste for 49 cents because they'll do that. They'll sell it at 49 cents just to drive people into their store. Exactly. It becomes the lost leader in the basket and people buy other profitable items. But we don't want them to do it because if Loblaws is going to do that, Walmart's going to complain. Walmart's going to say, hey, what are you guys funding them to do it at 49 cents? And so it ends up causing a war and huge instability amongst retailers. So you don't want them to do that. You want them to do a sale. You want them to put your product on the front flyer, but you don't want them to be doing it at a price that's going to embarrass the value of the product. Sure. Okay. So,
but that's not what's causing this feeling.
No, that's not what's causing this feeling. What I was getting at was that after these meetings, I would go to the car and I would actually write everything that happened from when I entered. I did it to you guys verbally today, actually. But what I would do was I would write down, okay, what was my experience when I entered? Right. What was the tone of the
environment?
The secretary?
Yeah.
Right.
What was the tone of the buyer? Did they greet me with a handshake? Did they do this? Like, I would get specific.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reason is because I'd had so many meetings that then I'd be able to refer back and kind of understand the psychology of the person that I was meeting. Okay, so
you're looking for patterns in there.
I'm looking for patterns, and I'm trying to understand better how do I do my follow up with this person based on how
this experience.
The experience. So, but my point.
Homework.
I know, right?
My key
Keep
point.
Seeing that today.
Yeah, that's the theme today of homework and
do your homework,
vital.
people.
Yeah,
do your homework
and keep data because data.
Data is like where it's. See, I told you.
She's all about this data.
I'm always
other
telling
projects
you.
we're working on. It's fine.
But what the reason I'm saying about the recaps and stuff is just to kind of further zero in on any of your viewers that are watching this. It takes time to document, especially if you're busy in your day. I know it now in my current role. And I still document, but not as much as I used to. But the documenting at that time, journaling, is what ended up giving me the reason. And what the reason was that I felt that I was not meeting my potential. People say you've succeeded, you've got the job you wanted, but what is success? And to me, I mean, I've learned to define success as a moving target. So it's
defined by you,
and you'll hit it, but you got to continuously raise the bar, and and I think that's at least how I felt.
So wait, when you were documenting, you didn't say that earlier.
No,
you were documenting, but back then you were documenting how the sales meeting went. Well, you weren't documenting how you felt.
No, I was documenting. The sales meeting is just an example of me documenting, but I would document like the challenge that I was feeling. Why am I feeling this way? At what time am I feeling this way?
Okay, so that's what you went back to that technique.
What time? What day?
So what feelings did you have when you come out of these meetings?
The meetings specific were, they were business meetings. So, I would, at certain meetings.
So, no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He wasn't documenting feelings.
Yeah.
At those meetings.
At that point.
He used this, what he had learned doing that.
Yeah.
At the time he starts getting this emptiness feeling. Something.
Okay.
Right?
I want people to understand that documentation, whether it's on your bed at night before you go to bed about your day, whether it's in the car, jotting it just after a meeting, whether it is doing it just before you leave the office or even first thing in the morning. Documenting is a vital part of what I have observed has influenced me in achieving what I want to achieve. to a point where I can say that, if Muhammad said, hey, Riyaz, you won the lottery right now, it wouldn't make me jump. If Muhammad said, Riyaz, what can I get you today? Anything. Can I get you anything that's going to make you happier? I mean, maybe I'd say I feel like eating a watermelon right now. If you have watermelon around, I'll have watermelon. But like, to get to that sort of a state, it's not about the amount of money that you have in your bank account. Okay, no. What it is really being able to. I feel for me, it was documenting and understanding what are the disturbances, so you can kind of iron those wrinkles. Okay, the disturbances. My disturbance at that time was the fact that I constantly felt that I was not achieving my potential, that I was allowing my potential to just never be exposed, never live the potential that I have, because I'm now in this position where, I'm it's kind of cyclical.
It just structures your whole existence.
And you just kind of follow the same path as the person that graduated 3 years before you, who's now the AE, who then is the SAE.
Hold on. Isn't that also achieving potential when you do that?
That's a good point. Yeah, and I guess it depends on what your objectives
your own
are.
Definition is.
I ended up being promoted much faster than my colleagues. So class of, we all start at the same time when we graduate. And so that class of is now the class that you're together, you keep track of each other's performance, you socialize with each other, you go out with each other. And so I ended up getting my promotion like at the 18-month mark, where it's normally at the 3-year mark. So yes, I was,
where's the feeling?
I was progressing, but still I didn't feel like I was achieving my potential. So what is the potential? What is it that I'm not achieving? And so,
and was this just like an embodied sense? Like you just felt it? Like
you're not happy. Like, there's something there that you're
even with the promotion, you're not happy. That's when you know something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's when you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You got the promotion and still something's not feeling.
You got the promotion. You have great managers. Great. I mean, and so what it ended up being anyway, after kind of a lot of documenting, a lot of reflection and stuff, it was that there was a moment in my 4th year where I had taken an entrepreneurship course, and I had actually the challenge was to come up with a business plan. And I had actually written a very nice business plan. We got a great grade on it. And but I never acted on the business plan. It was an assignment.
Yeah. It was theory
and I was always kind of wondering, hey, if I had actually done something along that business, what would have happened? And but of course, it's kind of put away in a drawer, and I'm working my way up here, and I'm but I'm like, I realize that, hang on a second, I think what's happening here is really that I need to be able to, if I'm going to bleed this company's logo, the one that I'm at right now, and if I'm going to put myself in 100%, like, giving it full gear, the one question that was coming back to me once in a while was always that paper in the desk. And it was like, I think what's happening here is I'm questioning what would have happened had I done that. And I don't want to be
a what if plan.
Yeah, what would have happened? Sorry.
Well, they say
the what if strategy.
At the end of your life, it's better to look back and say, "Oh well,"
instead
of "What if."
That's nice,
right?
Yeah, that's
nice.
Well,
or "What if?" Yeah. What would you rather say at the end?
Yeah.
So you said it when you were
Yeah, I said it when I was in my 20s, right? And so,
while succeeding, apparently, right?
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
And so and this is, again, it's so important to be able to, no matter where you are, this is maybe a little business point here I'm going to share, but, quite obvious is always have good relations with whoever you're dealing with, whether you agree with them or not, never burn bridges, and so what I did was, when I found what it was that was causing me to question my potential, it was this idea.
Because it was always festering there?
Yeah. And it's not the exact of what you see today, but it was the beginning of what you see today.
It was a seed.
Yeah. I actually went and I spoke to my director. I went straight to the director, and I told the director, I said, look, this person is taking a year's leave of absence to travel the world. This person's taking a year's leave of absence because they want paternity leave or whatever. And I was very honest, and most people would not want to share this information because, remember, the last thing an employer wants to hear is that you're planning on leaving them after they've invested a lot in you, in training. And so now you're kind of at the 5-year point of me being with this company, and I'm like, this is what the situation is that I've been promoted. I have a huge team now that I have to look after. And the one thing that's on my mind is I had this idea in my 4th year, and I keep wondering what would have happened had I done it. I'd like to request a year's leave to actually see what would happen if I do it. And, in that conversation, they actually really appreciated the honesty.
Yeah, because you could have made up a story that was more accepting, right?
Yeah.
Like, or just been
Were
very
you
vague.
worried though that, what if the guy sees that you're really not in it and you lose the job anyway? Like, there must have been some doubt about that.
There's a risk.
Yeah,
so there is
a
a
risk.
But at the same time, I like to sleep at night, and I like to also be able to look at my face in the mirror in the morning, not feeling like I'm a liar, I'm a cheater, or, I just want to know that I said it. And so then that way, if I ever look back and if really I did end up being, let go of or whatever, I would know that at least I have nothing to regret and that I actually was honest about it,
I just want to point something out too from like when I was listening to you, like going back to before you went to the what if and you realized you weren't happy. I think that is such a huge moment, because you just kind of like leapfrog to what if and then taking action on the what if. But those are huge leapfrogs. And I say that because when you have quote unquote perceived success through, you have money and access to things and you can pay your bills and all of these things and have luxury items, people often, that's what we think is successful, that we're programmed. There's a whole marketing, there's a whole marketing campaign about, feeding this product to make you feel good. Buy this, you'll look beautiful. Buy this, you'll be happy. Live like this. Yeah. And I think that is such an important space, because there's so many people, and I know this because I've walked with them. I've been one, right? Right. And where you're just like, well, I have all of these things, but I'm not fulfilled. Like there's just this there's something like, we have to be passionate about something when we spend so much time earning money to basically sustain ourselves. There's a level of passion that we all need. If we can't create that space in what gives us our earnings, we need to create that space for ourselves somewhere to nurture ourselves. Because not everyone has the capacity or the entrepreneurial spirit to be like, I'm going to hit hard and do the what ifs, right?
Actually, that leads me to
that's okay.
Something I'm wondering about too. Yeah. Is that, you said this is where you got to in year 5. When did it first start happening? Like, were you ignoring it when it first started happening? I'm curious about that.
No, it started happening, I would say, probably I was living with this for about 3 years.
So that's it. Yeah. So the first signs of it, when it comes, we kind of like suppress it a little bit.
Yeah. In fact, I was even feeling guilty for thinking that way or feeling that way.
Well, because you feel ungrateful almost, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah. You would feel guilty for even almost being unappreciative of where you are. Yeah. Was that it?
Yeah.
And then it didn't go away. No. And it kept coming back.
It kept coming back, and it also affects your performance. And when
that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You were doing really well. You're getting promotions.
I was, but again, I know that if I was capable of going from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, I was going from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds.
You know what they call it nowadays? That term? It's referred to as quiet quitting. You're slowly starting to check out, but it's happening somewhat subconsciously, or maybe even consciously that Monday. I mean, I'm gonna do well. I'm gonna go close this. But the passion level just starts really the glow.
If the eye is looking at
the honeymoon phase is way gone. It's over.
Yeah.
Your eye's on the clock the whole time.
The eye's on the clock. I tell my staff these days. I say, you know what? If they're walking out at 5 p.m. like
sharp,
see, Ms. Riyaz, 5 p.m. I know that they've been watching the clock since 4:30.
Yeah. Right.
So right then and there. So I mean, if they are so engrossed and absorbed in the projects that they're working on, that they lose track of time.
They're like, oh gosh, I gotta stop.
All of a sudden, it tells you what they feel about their job. And so what was happening was,
You weren't feeling it. Yeah.
I wasn't feeling it. Or at 5 o'clock, I'd be like, okay, I'm out. And I don't like that because I want to be able to be excited to turn my laptop on when I go back home. And, you know, at that time, there was no kids either, right? So just turning on my laptop and wanting to do the work. And so I didn't feel it. So 3 years was how long I lived with it.
Okay. So then now you get to this point and you had this conversation with your director.
Yeah.
You get some kind of blessing.
Yeah.
Right? You feel like there's a go ahead now. Then what happened?
So incredible support. I got to say,
straight and registered a company.
No. So I spoke to him after I had already kind of, you know, maybe I'd say a couple 8 to 12 weeks after really kind of thinking this through, understanding what it was and thinking it through and doing some research and homework. And I mean, I made sure it was a calculated risk before I spoke to them, that really there was something that I was ready to
an actionable
rock
plan.
And roll with. Yeah. And so, you know, I got the blessing from the director and from the team overall. I got in writing a letter that my job was guaranteed to me after 52 weeks. It might not be the same brand, but it was the same level.
But yeah.
And so I went, and now the clock started. I mean, yes, pretty much. I had to go to University Street, and I had to incorporate, and I started fast.
Pause 1 second. You see, that's the other part is that you prepared for 8 weeks, right? Again, you just skipped over that. That's a lot of that. Sometimes people, when you can take 8 months first of all to think about it, but how intensely were you working in those 8 weeks? Was it just really just like in the 8 weeks that you were leading up to prepare to do your research to know that what were you doing those 8 weeks and how intensely were you focused on? Was it just kind of like casually or was it very focused? What were you doing those 8 weeks?
When I decide to do something just me as a person is I go all in.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I think that's an important thing to recognize.
In those 8 weeks, I knew patent numbers, I knew inventors' names, I knew engineers that I would need to work with to assemble. Right. I knew target locations that I would be approaching to sample the product. I knew the specialty leasing managers' names and numbers that I would be going to various malls.
Yeah, it's all the prep, right?
To do surveys and collect data, right? Yeah. So homework and data, really, really important. But a lot. Like I was thorough. Yeah. I had 2 books filled with information that I've kept until today so that my kids can actually see what I did at that stage pre what we have today. I didn't do it with the intention of showing it to my kids, but I've kept it. Yeah. And today now I can see
one of my favorite lines.
It's a cool tool.
From what was that show? Suits? Harvey Specter?
Yeah.
It's just like if you kind of sort of try, you kind of sort of fail. You know, he didn't kind of sort of. Yeah. He really dove in to doing his preparation. And I think that, you see, like, I think that's something that needs to be
done is better than
recognized.
Well said. Yeah.
If you hadn't done it that way, if you had kind of sort of, well, is there a market? Yeah, there's a market. There are patents. No, what are the patent numbers?
Yeah.
You know, there are these 3 engineers. No, I want to talk to these engineers. And it wasn't just like a, hi, how are you doing? It was like an in-depth conversation. Yeah. So what sounds like it was just 8 weeks was a really intense experience.
Super
Some
intense.
people could take 8 months and not do
your
that.
Cross comparison.
And I think the 8 weeks is not the relevant part. I think the relevant part is how much ground you covered in 8 weeks. It could have been, you could have taken 9 or 12 or as long as it took until you got, I would call, a feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it was.
You
it
didn't
was
stop
like
until you got to the end of that.
And it was all,
that's
all
important
of a sudden
to
this
know.
adrenaline where, you know, I get somebody on the phone who's in Washington, D.C., who's a critical part of my equation because he's got information that I need to speak to him about and see if he's going to be a part of this movement. And what
was
I was
he in
doing.
The White House in Washington, D.C.?
No.
Just curious. Washington,
nice
D.C.
try. No, not yet.
That's next month.
But the point
which
of
way
this
is the economy going again?
The point of this, though, was that I spoke to him on the phone on a Monday, and on Tuesday I was in his office. So I drove.
Right.
Oh wow.
See, like the ground that you cover in the 8 weeks is what's important.
And then it was almost the whole idea of, you know, the remember at the beginning of this interview you were talking about applying at second year. And when I applied it second year, your question was, well, I mean, if you were told, that you might not get the job, and I told you that, it was the challenge and so the same thing happened here was now I need money to do this. Like I did not have sufficient funds to invest in assembling a laser machine and putting together the technology that I needed. And, it's a single-use asset. You go to any of the banks, if you don't have a house to
I don't know what single-use asset means.
Single-use asset means is that if you fail, if the bank gives you money to build this laser and your business fails,
that's it.
How are they going to use that asset? It's a single use. It's to burn glass. I mean, they can't use it. They can't sell it to anybody.
Yeah.
So I mean, every objection after objection after objection. I'm like, okay, I'm in my first month.
This is all happening in the 8 weeks?
No, sorry. This is happening now after I've already left.
Okay,
so I've got my clock has started.
Okay,
and
got it.
Now,
so you didn't have that covered in your
I didn't have my money.
Okay, so that's interesting. Like you thought you had all of this ready.
Yeah.
And then you leave.
Yeah.
And then the clock starts.
And not
then
only
you realize you need money.
And not only that, it's like when you're working for a well-respected company, and you call Walmart, they pick up the phone.
That's right.
Yes.
And now
that's where you come to realize.
And now, it's back to that realization, right? Where I'm calling the banks, the account managers, and
for the first time, it's not lining up.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah, exactly. It's not lining up. And I'm telling you, it's like a sweep of, reality.
Yeah.
That bubble has popped.
That feeling in your stomach when you just got punched.
That bubble has popped.
Yeah.
I'm saying like no other time before. Where now I've left my job. Yeah. Yes, it's there after a year.
Yes,
but is it success for me to be going back?
Yeah.
Is it really? Do I? Yeah. Is that what is your not story? Giving it? What did you just quote? You said if you don't give your all, you're
kind of sort of try.
Kind of sort of. Hey, I couldn't. I had to have a contingency, then contingency, and contingency. Finally, the last bank that I met with. She liked my presentation. We talked about anecdotes. She liked my style enough to say, look, there's very little chance that this bank is going to be able to give you the kind of money you're looking for. It was like $250,000, okay?
Yeah.
And you don't have a car. Remember, it was the company car, which I've given the keys back to. You don't have a house. You don't have any collateral.
Nothing to leverage.
Single-use asset that you want to use this towards. We don't even know if it's going to work. There's no bank, but I liked your presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a chance to speak to the risk manager. Right. Okay.
They never do that.
His name was Paul. So, and Paul was working at head office. So she said that come 2 weeks after, bring your same presentation back, and we're going to have Paul here. I'm going to present it to Paul. So Paul comes in. Chris was my account manager, and Paul and Chris are there. I take him through the presentation. Now, he asks me all kinds of questions, like if this doesn't work, or if that doesn't work, if you don't get this location, or does the product break easy? So I was like, I don't know, let's try. And I knocked it onto the floor. He didn't laugh.
You?
He didn't laugh. I did it. He didn't laugh. He had a complete poker face.
Yeah.
A complete poker face. And he didn't, I couldn't get anything out of him. I wanted to be able to read the guy. I couldn't.
Yeah, all these skills, dude.
After the.
So again, not aligning.
It's not aligning. It's like, when I was making my other interviews and giving anecdotes, I would have them nodding their head.
Yeah.
No way. And
just like your interview when you're interning, applying to intern.
Yeah.
You're getting the reaction.
I was getting the reaction.
You're not getting the reaction. Isn't it interesting? Like after all of the success, you start realizing when it comes down to just you. You're like, there's nothing around you now, right?
Yeah.
You're feeling now a little bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The whole team that you have, the entire backing that you have in your, other roles, it's just not there. But not only that, is that, and I'll finish the story, Paul, but just before I do, I'll just tell you that now it's not only not having the support of the people that you're working with, but it's also the people that are, many times the ones that had supported you throughout think you're nuts.
Yes.
Because they're like, you just left this well-paid job career that you could have for life with an amazing pension to go and build a laser and sell glass. Like you sound like
it's insane.
Mad scientist
or
something.
That's the guy who couldn't get the job. That's what that guy does.
Exactly.
I remember, since he's talking about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
When we would say back in the day, I'm an entrepreneur, what it really meant was you couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that way.
Yeah.
It was not as sexy as it is nowadays to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm a startup. I could go to Silicon Valley. Back before, in our generation,
it was
the
really
guy who couldn't get the job.
Yeah.
And so there it is again. And I gotta say, since this is Small Business Week, okay, I have this thing. I mean, you highlighted right now when people call us small business. And I go, what do you mean small? What do you mean small? Oh, I'm a part of a big company. Actually, you're nothing. You have all this stuff around you. The small business guy is everything.
Yeah.
The ones who walk in there and have all this support and feel big and feel strong, who are buying at the lowest prices, selling at the highest prices, to me, garner way less respect in my books than the guy who has to buy at the highest price, sell at the lowest price, and still be able to put money on the table and with no support. Go on, call that guy small. Call that guy small. Please.
Amen to that. That
Call him mighty.
Yeah.
Totally.
Actually, sorry, I had to get that
No,
out.
you're 100%.
This whole
Thank
week,
you for that.
I'm saying Small Business Week, Small Business
No.
Week. I'm like, cut that out.
No.
Go call yourself small. Don't call these guys small.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I don't know. Anyway, this is about you, so I'm going to do that on
Okay,
another
so you
day.
knocked the machine off the table.
I'm the crystal. I knocked
I
the
love
crystal
that
off
you-
the table.
like,
the product.
you had that
Not the
feeling.
machine, the product, the
You
final
knocked
product.
the product.
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted to know if the product
He
would
wanted to know
break.
the product break. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
the
thought you
final
knocked the
product.
machine
I didn't have the machine yet. I needed the money to make the machine.
Yeah, you didn't have the machine yet.
Yeah.
I already got the machine.
So I just had a
Did you ever
prototype.
plan that moment?
So
Like,
how
I'm
did you
gonna
make
knock
a
it off?
prototype
So how
without
did-
the machine?
Impulse, just impulse.
Because what if it broke, man?
Yeah, I took my chances because I saw that there was carpet.
Yeah, you're assessing the risk.
That's it, right?
Risk assessment. Okay, so
And if it did break, I guess it does. You know? Who's gonna knock it off a table?
Everyone
That's
else
not the
said
intent.
no, so
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
said no, right?
Yeah.
I love that. You had no choice.
But
Okay.
now I'm feeling probably the most vulnerable out of any because this is my moment. Like if I don't get this funding, this is the last bank, by the way. If I don't get this funding, it's like now I've actually failed. Like proving yourself capable of. Maybe I wasn't capable of, and so I have actually failed in this endeavor. Failures aren't bad, by the way.
No,
That's another
not at
topic
all.
altogether.
Sure.
But I'm just saying in terms of my real desire to make this work.
Right. You're at the last step now.
I'm now, this is it, and so I'm feeling it. And in this
because
interview,
you've had failures up to this point,
meeting,
right?
in that meeting,
Yeah.
at that moment.
in that meeting,
Because
at
Paul
that
just
moment,
doesn't want to show you any love.
he's not showing
Couldn't
any
read
love.
him.
Right. And so now I'm feeling the nerves. I'm pulling through this presentation.
Comes up pretty fast,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
And I can remember those
You're
emotions. I
sweating.
can remember the sweat, and the breathing, and and that's everything I documented afterwards.
documented this, right?
And so we finished the presentation, which I thought the presentation was stellar, but man, the guy was hard. And he got up and he said, "Okay, I'll get back to you." And he left. And he didn't show that he was super impressed about anything.
It was just there.
And Chris looked at me and said, "You did a good job. You shouldn't feel upset about anything at all." But now when she's saying that, what's she leading to?
right. What's she prepping you for?
And she's saying normally what would happen is that the risk manager would take me into another room and we would discuss the amount that we would be able to offer you because we probably wouldn't give you the entire amount that you're asking for. Then we'd come back and we would tell you that amount, shake your hand, but he's left. So
I don't know what this is.
it's a Friday. It was a Friday that I had the meeting. So she said that let me call him after our meeting, but most likely we'll get back to you on Monday. And
I'm just curious what time on Friday was.
this was a morning meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think 9:30, somewhere in there. So the whole weekend was like, it was
Torture.
shot. It was shot.
Yeah.
You're
The
sitting
weekend
there
was
like,
shot.
yeah.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah. And I don't know, because it's one of those moments where I want to spend that time focusing on the plans of the business, but I don't want to then start doing something that I'm actually feeling depressed about because all these amazing plans, and on Monday I find out I'm not
You don't
getting
have the
along.
funding.
And, on Monday she calls me and she says, "Riyaz, I got a call from Paul and I always choke up he said, I got a call from Paul and Paul said that he's not only giving you what you asked for, he's giving you $20,000 more."
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that probably one of the best success moments in my life. So that moment was the beginning.
It's like an epiphany.
It was, today we sign contracts with the cruise lines. They'll cut the ribbons, photos shaking hands. None of these amazing moments match that moment there because of the meaning of that moment. It was taking me from this question of myself, this question of my potential.
Do I have this?
And what, and am I achieving my potential? It's taking me from that, all of a sudden, I crossed the bridge.
You actualized
it. It's validation that now someone else has seen your value and believed in you so much so that they're willing to roll the dice and give you more than $250,000 on it. And I stayed true to my word. He gave me a 7-year loan. 18 months after he gave me the loan, I sent him a letter back saying, you had faith in me. You trusted me. Today I've paid your loan back.
Right.
18 months.
Yeah.
What?
Can I ask you, though, as you were approaching that time, even on that Friday, even as you were getting the no's from the other banks, was the feeling of that you talk about, that being unhappy, was it present? That you were talking about feeling while you were working
That's a good
somewhere?
question because
it didn't sound like it was around.
No, because you're doing what you want.
So even while being successful, apparently successful, and feeling unhappy or unfulfilled, you know, in a successful environment where you're apparently thriving, versus the feeling of happiness and fulfillment while you're struggling.
Yeah.
So quite often, I find that when a lot of people look at it, they feel like there's happiness somewhere. That happiness is like this destination, right? That you get to, but you're proof that you're at a destination and there's no happiness, versus where you're struggling and there is no unhappiness, at least, and there's happiness, even in the struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. It's the journey. The journey, I mean, there's so much more meaning when you look back, but even when you're in it, that's really where all the fun is. I mean, once you've achieved it, that's why I kind of said that what is
it's
success,
like pushing and
right?
seeing what you're capable of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, what can I do?
So I think that's a beautiful thing to like even pause on right there, because really everything that follows after that, right?
Yeah, it's just gravy.
It's not that it's gravy. It starts from there.
Yeah.
It's a multiple of that.
Yeah.
Everything, when they say multiple or growth.
Yeah.
Growth of what?
Yeah.
Growth of that.
Yeah.
And that is what actually took place in those 8 weeks, in that how many no's you got, right? This was all in before the 18 months, before you got the loan. How long from the time you got the loan, how long from the time you left your work to the time you got your loan?
It was within those 8 weeks. It was
at the very beginning.
There's 8 weeks of preparation.
Oh, before I told them.
Yeah. And then you told them.
The loan was another 8 weeks. It was about 2 months.
So it's in that it's 8 weeks, but a lot happens in that 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's, you could have stopped. You could have gone into that last presentation and said, everybody else said no. You still gave it, you're all in that presentation.
Yeah.
You kept moving. And it's amazing how many times I hear these stories. It was the last one too. Yeah. It was the last one. It wasn't the first one. And I gotta say, like, if you were meant to learn the lesson, like, the universe or whoever is trying to teach you, it's like you gotta go all the way to the end to find it.
That's an interesting point. I think that the story probably wouldn't have actually even been. I said I don't have the story of the $20 in my pocket, but I think that this is kind of close.
Man.
But it's about it's having faith in yourself and living true to yourself, really, right? Like, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine last night, and it was about like a new immigrant to Canada, and he just talked about living years on his line of credit to get his business going. And when you have dips and stuff like that, and you just kind of have this mentality. You're like, no, I got to just double down and just work. And it's just that intrinsic belief in yourself that, like, it doesn't matter what financial obstacles are there. Just that perseverance and that faith in what you want to accomplish is like, I think we all strive for that. And I think we lose sight of it sometimes on our journey, is that we're told like, oh, go get your education, do this. These are all the check boxes. But like no one ever has conversations of what fulfills you. What are you passionate about? What do you want your legacy to be? What's your message? What do you value? And I think these are conversations that are coming in. And I think, and that's what I'm pulling from your story, is just, you can create the life you want if you're true to yourself. It doesn't matter the risk or what people say.
Yeah.
Right?
While you were going through your applications, I'm just curious, in that 8 weeks after you left and you got the first no and then the second no, did you present the same presentation or did you make adjustments?
It was the same PowerPoint. I mean, I did make some adjustments to questions that I was asked that perhaps weren't covered on the first one.
See, so that's
You're
a little detail.
The tool. You're sharpening
so
the tool.
So you know, there's the lessons learned, and you didn't just go from one and like repeating
that
the same
failure
thing
is a
over
good
and over
thing.
again, expecting different results. You were adapting.
But I'll also say, because people are going to ask, well, you made the point that it was a single-use asset. So how is it possible that the final bank actually agreed to give you that kind of a
how did you prove your marketability?
without any collateral? And do you know what it was? It was the most simple thing. It was the letter from my director. I said, I might not have collateral, but I have this letter that's endorsing me.
That's so interesting.
That he sees value
It's
in.
endorsing me as a person, as one of their...
That's really smart. I never thought of that.
And I'm giving this
the fact that I am going to have my job back, full-time job, paying this.
At this rate.
And at this rate, everything. And that is what, ended up really convincing the bank to take
Did you do that on the other presentations, or you only do that with Paul?
I had it on the other presentations, but Paul... is the one that actually gave the most weight
to that letter.
When they're investors, they look at the product, they look at price, but they look at people. That's a big component of it.
What does he bring?
And so he gave the most weight to that letter, and that letter was written by a guy named Robert. He was my director. And to this very day, I'm in touch with Robert.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you never went back to the job,
I didn't go back to the job, but I kept my friends over there. But, Robert, he was actually here as an expat from the U.S. And so he went back to the U.S. And so we weren't, always in touch. But I actually just recently, I'd say maybe 3 months ago, sent him a letter just telling him more of the story of what actually happened and how I want him to know that, and I'll probably flip him this.
When this comes out.
And today, this product, what's it called?
It's called 3dcrystal.com.
So 3D Crystals is like, again, if you meet Riyaz, right? He's like laid back, easy, humble guy. They're not slouches, these guys. They've got that one little laser thing that he bought back then, how many of them does he have today? What kind does he have today? How many countries are you in?
I don't know,
now?
you're talking about cruise ships.
You're a multinational.
We're in 6 continents. Yeah. We've got
You're kidding?
This guy right here. So what do you say to people who are just came to that realization, but sometimes it doesn't happen, who didn't prepare. Let's just say they didn't prepare now. They didn't prepare enough. So you didn't prepare enough either. And that's why those next 8 weeks were as difficult as they were. It's amazing, no matter how much we prepare, there's always something
you
that's
didn't plan
unforeseen.
for.
But that happens to people. And they don't get the yes. Not on the end of the 8 weeks. What do you say to that?
So first of all, I would say that there's a difference between risk and calculated risk. Okay, so if you're going to attempt to do something without any preparation, then
if you fail to plan,
you're planning to fail, right? So I would say that you should definitely be doing your, as we said, the 2 buzzwords. One was homework and one was data. Okay, so that should definitely be there. Then it becomes a calculated risk, a risk where you can look back and say, okay, even though it didn't succeed, I can justify the decision that I made. That's what you want to, because, if you're always winning and never losing, it means you're not taking enough risk. Remember that. This is something, is that every year when I look back, someone will congratulate me on what we've achieved today. But today was baked 2 years ago. And my staff know that when I'm at the office, 70% of my mind is in 2024.
Right.
And
because you're trying to envision
30% of my time is spent in operational work today. Okay. And what ends up happening is when I look at the last year and what did I achieve and what did I succeed in, I'm always also looking for the failures.
Yes.
I have to see some failures. If I don't see failures, it means that my company did not take enough risk. All right. So to answer your question, I would say that as long as they've got the data and the homework done, that they should definitely pursue, but do not wait to have it absolutely perfect, because I didn't. And I didn't have a huge component wasn't in play, and I didn't even think that I didn't even realize that would be the big factor until the moment that I'm in that meeting with Paul.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that would be the actual, his decision at that moment in time would be it, really. And I didn't even think I'd have to go through 5 different applications and it would be the last one so you can't always wait for things to be perfect. We might want to do a B2B exhibit and we'll have our latest laser that we want to showcase. It's coming out and the latest laser is coming out, but it's not ready yet. So let's get it perfect and then we'll show it. No, if it's not 100% ready, take it to the show. That way you'll at least be able to get feedback.
That way you can knock it off the table.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to worry.
But then,
Just make sure
and then
there's
people
carpet
have
there.
co-creation in it too, right?
Yeah.
And input.
Get feedback and input. But at the same time, my point really is that if you're always going to wait for it to be absolutely perfect, you're never going to do it.
No.
You got to kind of be at a certain point where you have enough, go out and do it, and then build on it further.
That's a hard thing to do. That's where he pushes me all the time, because I'm like, I'm really risk adverse at times, right?
Thank you for the message, Riyaz, because that's really what I think. Hearing it from different perspectives, and we heard it today from a fighter, and we're hearing it from a person who's in business.
It's the same
message. Stuff. And what people often figure is that when they look up to you now, or when they look around at people who are on the other side of the breakthrough, they figure, they were gifted. They had something I didn't have. What is it that you think everybody already has? What is it? I mean, what is it that you think you had that somebody else didn't have, really?
Yeah, I don't think that there is anything really that
right?
Yeah.
You're pretty,
especially in today's world. I mean, everybody has access to the same information, content,
So what are the chances for them?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you, man. That's huge. I appreciate it very much, man.
My pleasure. It's great being here.
Thanks for coming.